recruitment over the last 2 years has been a bit of a roller coaster. And I think, from my experience, the market at the moment is tougher than it's ever been before. So I just wanted to share a few hints and tips really on how to get the best and how to recruit and give yourself the best possible opportunity during a tough market really. So a bit about myself. So I'm a director and co-founder of Logic Resourcing. We've been operating now since 2017, and we support businesses across Staffordshire and Cheshire, also further afield with recruitment support. We're a generalist agency, anything from IT, finance, marketing, and sales. But the key thing about ourselves, and I think what's really added to our background and experience is, prior to forming Logic Resourcing, myself and co-director, our background was all HR and internal recruitment. So starting many, many years ago at Phones for You, we supported the recruitment of 600 stores nationally, the head office, everything from marketing, finance, IT, and their contact centre. Excuse me. I also worked for Stoke-on-Trent City Council in a recruitment capacity. And then finally, before starting Logic Resourcing, I worked in the charity sector for the YHA as their head of recruitment. And that has really given us a great foundation to start a recruitment agency. A lot of people thought we were mad starting an agency with no experience, but it's allowed us to apply a partnership approach. It's given us an understanding of what a lot of our clients experience. So we really have experienced all areas of recruitment, from setting up internal teams, from developing processes, and now to the agency side, where we support businesses and help them get their recruitment right. So we're in the position now, myself, where I speak to businesses, hiring managers, HR leaders on a daily basis, and a lot of them are experiencing the same sort of challenges when it comes to recruitment. So there's a lot of underlying themes at the moment and recruitment trends. So I'll run through a few of the main ones. So businesses are struggling to recruit and attract talent at the moment. That's the key theme. We're hearing that job boards, so that's you Read, Indeed, CV Library, are just not attracting the required quality. Applications are then not responding to any communication from the client. Candidates may not be showing up or turning up for interview once they have spoken to them. And we're hearing that candidates are then turning down job offers or withdrawing prior to joining the business. There's a high number of resignations for companies within a short period of time. You may have heard of the kind of great resignation, which we're going through or just entering at the moment. And companies that are using recruitment agencies may brief the position to the agency, and then the agency suddenly goes quiet, or there's lack of communication from the agency. So these are all things that we are being told on a daily basis from the companies that we deal with, that we speak to, and from clients and candidates that we're dealing with. So I want to hopefully run through a few tips on how we can alleviate some of these issues and really give you the best possible opportunity to recruit. So let's first think, why are businesses struggling? Why are they having these challenges at the moment? So I think firstly, there's a record number of vacancies on the job boards, which is creating huge competition. Basically, candidates can have their pick. I think for the first time since records began, the ONS said that there's fewer unemployed people in the market than there are job vacancies, which is just creating a huge supply and demand issue. I think candidates' expectations and priorities have changed and altered. We've noticed a massive shift since COVID came into place. So candidates are now seeking more than just salary. They're looking for flexibility. They're looking for work-life balance. One of the first questions when we get asked when we advertise a vacancy by candidates is, what is the flexibility? Can I work from home? Is there the opportunity for hybrid working? So these are things that are really, really important to candidates. I think candidates are now also, their expectations have changed. So they're now seeking a working culture aligned to the values. I think we've seen a slight shift with millennials and now Generation Z. So they're looking for diversity, inclusivity, well-being within a workplace. So a lot more than just, turn up for work. These are the hours. This is the salary. I think the expectations are permanently evolving. There's a skills shortage in certain sectors. digital, hospitality, trade. Some of this has been kind of hurried along by the after effects of COVID. Digital is a big one for us that we've found a huge shortage as more and more businesses have adapted the business to meet COVID. There's a kind of an increase in e-commerce, online businesses, and as such, the digital skill set, such as your pay-per-click, your paid media, your SEO experts have become really valuable to businesses and created almost a shortage in the market. I think salary expectations have left companies unable to compete. So what a lot of companies have been doing is advertising a position, let's say a customer service advisor, sort of 18,000. They've tried to recruit for a month and decided to, increase the salary by another few thousand. And that's gone on again and again. And we're almost in this sort of false economy now where salaries have been massively inflated over the last 18 months. We're finding that a lot of companies' resources can't match the pace of the market at present. So because candidates are applying for so many jobs, because the pace is so quick, unless you jump on and speak to those candidates straight away, chances are they've already applied for another position and accepted. So they're finding that the actual internal resource cannot match the pace in which candidates are applying and being processed by other companies. We're finding there's a huge increase in counter offers because companies are struggling to re-recruit for positions once they've had an employee hand in the notice. They get into the final hour and then offering a huge counter offer, an increase on salary just to retain that employee. And I think employees are expecting more from their current employers. So they'll have one eye on the jobs market. They'll see salaries increasing. They'll see other businesses offering flexibility to be competitive, and they will ask questions of their own employers. And ultimately, guys, what we're now entering in is what's known as a candidate-driven market. So things have shifted quite a bit, and now candidates hold a lot of the cards when it comes to employment opportunities. So the good news is there are things that as business owners and hiring managers and HR leaders that we can do. Now, this is quite it's quite a bold statement by Paul Tudor-Jones, but you can adapt, evolve, compete or die, and that is 100% true to life when it comes to recruitment. You've got to almost do one of these, or you will pretty much get left behind and you will really struggle to attract talent. So now I just want to run through a few things, a few hints and tips on what I believe can give you the best possible opportunity to stand out in a crowded market and really attract the sort of candidates that you want. So the first point, and this is vitally important, and this is before you even go to market, what I say to any employer is define what makes your business a great place to work, because without knowing that, you are really going to struggle. So if we get a role from a client or a company calls us and asks to recruit, what I always say is, why should somebody leave a similar position for a competitor or a company down the road and come and work for your company? Because unless businesses are unable to answer that, it is going to be a challenge. Your vacancy could be, one of 50 similar roles. So unless you can define why somebody should come and work for you, it's going to be a challenge. And, a lot of people think it's all about salary and remuneration. Well, that's actually only third or fourth in a list of key drivers that people look for. So it's sometimes looking a little bit more deeper in terms of what your company can offer. So things that we kind of discuss and we coax out of the businesses when we're helping them to recruit is, what is the company culture? What is obviously the remuneration package, but going a bit deeper, what is the vision for the company? What are the growth plans? Where do you see your company going forward? Flexibility is, on the tip of everyone's tongue. Candidates want it. So what is the possibility of flexibility, of work-life balance? What is the current benefits package? And, it doesn't always have to be all of the sort of fancy stuff. Sometimes, as daft as it sounds, free parking or the MD buying bacon sandwiches on a Friday for the workforce. Sometimes this makes a difference, but it all starts to build up almost an EVP, an employer value proposition, and a reason why people should want to come and work for you. And then finally, development, progression, stability. There's a whole host of different things that, you know, would appeal to that perfect candidate out there, but you need to just take a little bit of time to kind of think about it, to formulate it. And this is the basis of your recruitment process. So once you've defined that, you know, it's all about then popping that together into a great advert, and an advert that will stand out from the crowd. So I checked this morning, I typed in customer service onto Indeed, and there was over 200 pages of jobs. And the reality is 99% of those job adverts there, in my opinion, are quite shocking. They're quite uninspiring. A lot of, you know, a lot of businesses out there completely take the wrong approach when it comes to writing a job advert. So some key things to avoid posting the full job description. It's not inspiring, it's quite boring. And there is actually a big difference between a job description and a job advert. So avoid the cliches such as this is an exciting opportunity, this is a wonderful opportunity, because, you know, there's 1,000 exciting opportunities going on, but without actually telling and articulating to the candidate why it's an exciting opportunity. It's just words on a screen. And avoid competitive salary. We've done a lot of analysis on this, and adverts that actually display the salary, even if it's a salary range, will get 80% more applicants than adverts that just display competitive salary. So in my opinion, a good advert will engage, it will educate, and it will inspire candidates to apply. It will help your role stand out amongst a row of bland adverts, and it'll get a greater uptake in applicants. So what I say, what you need to do is tell the candidate why it's a great place to work, and apply marketing principles to the copy. So using a simple sort of marketing AIDA model, the advert should raise awareness, it should gain interest, it should build desire, and ultimately attract the candidates to apply. A job description doesn't do that, but a great advert actually does. So just looking at an example of an advert that we put out at the moment using that. So this is for an account manager. Notice I've put hybrid in the title because I know that's something that a lot of candidates search for and will be appealing. So the top section of the advert, what we've tried to do is create a hook. So just reading that. So if you're an account manager who favors building and fostering relationships over hard sales, and you're looking to join a company that provides a culture of work-life balance, autonomy, and reward and recognition, then you'll love this role, and here's why. So that's almost creating a hook, trying to capture that candidate who might be scrolling through hundreds of adverts and getting them to read on. From there, the next section is all about building interest. So telling the candidate, right, what's in it for them? So we've listed a few of the key benefits. So you'll have flexibility along with the option of hybrid remote working. You'll get 25 days annual leave. You'll have amazing benefits package, including health insurance, Netflix. Now I get this particular company offers great benefits, but you could build, it doesn't have to just be fancy benefits. It could be the company culture. It could be development opportunities, anything that you can think of to build that desire and interest. And then it's only then the bottom section of the advert where we create the call to action. So it could outline duties and responsibilities, the experience you're looking for. But again, I tend to keep this sort of brief. There's no point listing 100, 20, 30 different factors what you're looking for, such as must have a great personality, because the reality is nobody declares themselves out for having a poor personality or not a great personality. So just stick to kind of key areas that you're really looking for in the role. And that is key. And believe me, we've tried multiple adverts. We've tried posting job descriptions. We've tried putting a bit of thought into the advert. And this is a key to generating a lot more uptake and actually getting candidates excited at that first stage. So number 3, communicate to inspire and engage with candidates. So I absolutely love this quote by Maya Angelou. So people will forget what you've said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And again, this is so important during the recruitment process and candidate journey. You know, I think sometimes we underestimate that a job is a big deal. A job is changing jobs is one of the biggest things that a lot of people can do, you know, within their life, and people like to be made special. The average candidate now applies, according to statistics, for up to 30 jobs in a single sitting. Now, the likes of Indeed, you know, makes that easier because candidates can click apply, apply, apply. But you want to reach out for that key candidate, and you want them to make them feel sort of special. You want to kind of resonate and build that engagement right from the off. So I know from first-hand experience that the way that you communicate with a candidate during the recruitment process will have an impact on candidate ghosting, which is where, you know, you might speak to a candidate or send an email, all sounds positive, but then they never pick up the phone to you again. It can have a positive impact on interview show rate. So actually candidates turning up for interview and not letting you down at the last minute. And it can have a positive impact on candidates accepting the role. So what I say is treat every interaction with a candidate as an opportunity to sell your business, to sell yourself, to sell the culture. You know, we all know that 80% of employees don't leave a bad job, they leave the bad boss. So what will they be doing throughout the recruitment process? They will be assessing you to see if potentially, could I work with this person? Would you be a great boss? And if you can communicate and inspire and engage and be memorable, then that's probably the best way to treat candidates throughout the entire candidate journey. So number 4, keep your process slick and be prepared to act quickly. There's lots of jobs out there at the moment. We know now candidates applying for up to 30 jobs in any one sitting. Unfortunately, in a candidate-led market, we do have to bow down to the candidate slightly. So it's really important that you keep your process, as flexible as possible. Now, I've witnessed and encountered interview processes of various lengths, of various stages over 1, 2, 3 weeks, 4-week periods. Now, what I would always say is keep your process concise. Ideally, a maximum of 2 stages, 3 at the very most, but you know, a nice 2-stage process should be enough to assess the candidate. Consider using telephone interview or video interviews as an alternative. A lot of candidates are kind of working from home or busy or still employed. So allowing them the flexibility to do it at a time that's convenient for them will give you the best potential hit rate. Don't wait until the closing date to review candidates. If you've put a closing date of 3 weeks on a particular advert or a vacancy, and an absolute superstar applies on day 2, by the time you get to the 3rd week to make contact with that candidate and invite them to the interview, unfortunately, they'll be long gone. They won't remember your business. They won't remember the advert they've applied for. Chances are they've interviewed elsewhere and also accepted another role. So I think you've got to move fairly quickly on this. And again, we touched on it before. Make the interview process a 2-way process. You know, it's not The Apprentice. You know, businesses have evolved quite a bit. The recruitment process has evolved quite a bit, especially over the last few years. So every opportunity to interact is another opportunity to sell and inspire that candidate. Be prepared to move quickly for the right candidate. And once you have found somebody, don't lowball the offer. You know, the market dictates the salary largely. You know, again, popping that offer into the candidate. A low offer will just almost sour the relationship. And even if they do accept, they'll almost kind of be on the back foot. And what I would always say is, you know, go on with a fair, realistic offer to try and secure that candidate. So number 5, be flexible with your desired candidate profile. So I speak to a lot of businesses that are looking for an absolute unicorn. It's okay if you've got 3 months to potentially fill a role. You know, there's no huge rush. But if you are, you know, wanting to fill the role fairly quickly and efficiently, then I would advise businesses to stop looking for the unicorn. So an example of that is we were recently approached to recruit for a credit controller position. When taking the brief, the client said that, it's absolutely vital that they have experience with Sage Line 50. They need experience recruiting, experience with multiple currencies, European and US. They needed experience within a chemical manufacturing environment, knowledge and understanding of ERP software, and also a finance degree. So they'd been out to try and advertise the role for 3 months themselves, got nobody at all. Application volumes were very, very low. So they came to us for some support. And the first conversation that we kind of had was, okay, you really are going to struggle to get somebody with all that experience. So take a bit of time to evaluate what you actually need and think why. So in this instance, why do they need a finance degree? Could I put somebody forward who has, 10 years experience and everything else? Is a finance degree essential? To which the answer was, well, actually, no. So why do they need experience within chemical manufacturing? What if we could get somebody from a slightly different manufacturing environment? So sometimes businesses really get hung up on looking for that unicorn when actually a slightly different profile could also sort of fit the bill. Consider recruiting for attitude and behaviours over exact skill match. In particular, some of the more sort of junior level positions, such as customer service or sales. Can we go and look for the right values, the right attributes, the right personality over a sales background? Consider a trainee or grad level positions if salary is a barrier. And also think outside the box. And a great example of this is a client that we work with who operates a tech company. So the majority of their workforce is web developers or really kind of techie people. Huge area where there's a big skill shortage at the moment. So what they've done is they enlist potential applicants in a company called the School of Code, which offers online digital training courses on coding. It's a 12-week boot camp. Following that, candidates will then be put forward, will be interviewed in line with the standard interview process, but they will have this 12-week boot camp behind them. And feedback is they've been doing this for 12 months, and actually the caliber and level of candidates that have completed the boot camp have been on par with candidates that they previously looked for who've completed an IT or web developing degree. So sometimes thinking outside the box, being flexible in your approach is key to actually filling that vacancy as efficiently as possible. So number 6, communicate with candidates post-offer. So again, this is really big. So you've found your candidate, you've made the job offer. It doesn't end there. Good candidates will still be on the active market. They might have other applications that they previously applied for, but the company's not contacted them yet. Their CV might still be floating around on the various job boards. Everybody's got a LinkedIn account now. So, if they're open to opportunities, companies might still be approaching them. So your job as an employer now is to get them in the mindset to almost encourage the candidate to withdraw from their job seeking mindset, really. So a lot of companies, again, get this wrong. We lost somebody, it was just before Christmas now. So a client offered the position to a candidate. The client then didn't send the offer details out for over a week and a half. By the time the candidate had received their offer details, they weren't particularly impressed and accepted another position elsewhere. So send those offer details as promptly as possible. I would always advise keeping a regular contact with the candidate as well. There's a bit, again, it's a big deal for a candidate to be moving jobs. That void sometimes between accepting the offer and starting is quite empty. So to try to fill that with regular contact. It's always good to outline the induction process or the first day expectations to the candidate before joining and just build that excitement, really. Again, a job's a big deal. Ideally, you want the candidate to be completely closed off to other opportunities, to be excited and raring to go to join your business. And the best way to do that is communication. And again, consider inviting them to meet the team or join in with any social team activities even before they've started with the business. So number 7, And this is kind of the key, really, and you know, a long-term strategy of all businesses who regularly recruit is to build and externalize your employer brand. And really, I could do another seminar just on employer branding because it's so huge. But put simply, an employer brand is what employees and prospective employees think of your company as an employer. So building and externalizing your employer brand should form part of your long-term strategy. A strong employer brand will make it easier to attract and retain talent. You'll almost create a brand that is in high demand, that makes candidates want to come and work for you. A good example of this is the police force, really. Their employer brand is so strong that when they advertise and recruit, they only open their recruitment window for a number of days because they know that they will get hundreds and hundreds of applications. And you know, that's the holy grail for any business, to have candidates waiting in the wings. As soon as you post a job, they want to apply. Again, Phones for You didn't necessarily have the best reputation within consumer reputation, but they had a really strong employer brand. We would get hundreds of thousands of applications per year from people who just wanted to come on board because they knew that Phones for You, you know, the remuneration was great, the benefits were great. So sometimes, you know, it's not all about culture. Sometimes it's about benefits and remuneration. But creating that employer brand is key. And if you can get that right, then it's absolutely gold, and that'll reduce your cost per hire and your time per hire as well. So those are the kind of 7 steps if you are looking to recruit yourself. I know some of you may use recruitment agencies out there. So I just want to run through a few tips on how to get the best out of recruitment agencies. So first of all, if it's your first time, take a little time to do a bit of research. You know, there's loads of information out there. A bit of a shameless plug on the left, you can see a lot of businesses have got Google Business now. You can see Google reviews on there. You know, take time to review their testimonials, the reviews, have a good look at the website, and try and align yourself with a business that kind of matches you, because I've worked with hundreds of agencies in the past from my internal days, and sometimes you get agencies that you just gel with or that work well with your business. Now, what I would say is choose one agency at a time. A lot of companies get this wrong because they think the best possible way to fill my vacancy is to brief my role to as many agencies as I can, because that'll mean more CVs. Well, it may mean more CVs, but it won't necessarily mean more quality candidates. What you'll create is a huge amount of competition between the agencies. We do all fish in a similar pool, despite what a lot of companies may say. What you'll create then is a race to fire CVs at you as quick as possible, when really recruitment is about attraction, assessment, taking time to understand the business we work with, and briefing to multiple agencies, you know, tends to drive the wrong behaviors, in my opinion. So if you are working with an agency, it's vital that you allow them time to understand your business, because recruitment's more than about matching a CV with a job description. It's about getting the culture fit right. It's about matching the career aspirations and trajectory of a candidate with one that matches the business. And that only comes from developing a certain level of understanding with the company or agency that you're working with. I would also say use the agency for insight and market research. So myself, we speak to businesses, candidates, companies. We look at job adverts, we look at the job boards, we have connections with the job boards. We've got a wealth of information and insight that would be invaluable to any business that's just looking to recruit. And I'm always more than happy just to pick up the phone, just to have a chat, just to review an advert with any businesses that just want some help, support and advice. So use your agency for kind of market research. So number 5, I would say it's important to constantly evaluate the agency you work with. Look at communication, look at the quality of applicants that are coming through. Are the candidates actually interested once we've reviewed the CVs? Are the candidates turning up for interview? I think it's important to constantly evaluate. And then when you know, going back to point number 2, choose one agency. If the agency you've chose are not living up to your expectations, then maybe it's time to move on and choose another agency at that point. And then number 6, I always say check out their adverts. If they are just posting your job description, then they don't really understand some of the fundamentals of recruitment. So, that is one sort of quick fire way really to double check. So I know I've just given you quite a bit of information there. Hopefully I've outlined some of the challenges that we know businesses are experiencing at the moment. I've tried to give you some tips on how possibly to give you the best opportunity to recruit during this tough market. And, it is tough. There's no getting away from that. It is probably the most challenging recruitment period that I've experienced as a recruiter, and then ran through a few tips really on how to get the best out of your recruitment agency. So yeah, I'd just like to open it up to any questions really. This is the part where it always goes one or two ways, where it goes quiet. But if you do have any questions or anything like that after, if nobody's got any questions for me now, I've popped my details at the bottom there. My contact details are always online, and as I say, love to answer anything recruitment related. Any way that I can help, I'm more than happy to.
Hi Lee, Peter Harris here.
Hi Peter.
I've got one question for you. Obviously, great presentation. Thank you very much. Got some really great tips in there. I guess one of the things you may see is, or hear a lot about, is sort of some of the reasons why people are looking for a new job. And I guess ultimately, for a lot of people on the call, potentially one of the best ways not to need to look for people to replace existing roles is to avoid losing people in the first place. What sort of things are coming through? You mentioned some of the things, I think, but is there any advice you give in terms of helping retention as well?
I think when it comes to retention, and again, that is gold, isn't it, really? If you can keep a happy workforce, and you can keep a workforce that, is not looking to move elsewhere, then that is the kind of the number one bit of recruitment advice I can see. I think one of the main reasons why employees are telling us that they like to move at the moment is purely down to the current market. I think if a business is kind of not moved with the times, they can see that other businesses are offering flexibility out there. If a lot of companies are not offering a similar benefits package, or staff well-being is quite big now, I think that candidates' expectations have evolved quite a bit. I would say the number one is around sort of flexibility and work-life balance, because they now know that other companies are offering that. So if they're still operating in quite a rigid manner, and they've seen that other businesses are offering flexibility, they're looking to move on from there. Honestly, the number one reason that we're getting at the moment is people aren't moving away from the business. It's generally management. And a lot of companies are struggling to adapt with managing teams remotely as well. So it's a completely different dynamic as to managing teams internally when you're sitting next to your team. Now it requires a very, very different skill set to manage people remotely. It's done a lot more on sort of outputs rather than actually being side by side by somebody. So that is a key theme that we're getting quite a bit now. There's the whole, unfortunately, there's the inflated salaries. So candidates are keeping their eye on the market out there, noticing that a similar job they can apply for on a higher salary. So that is having some form of effect on the market as well. So I always say to businesses, you've got to keep an eye on the market, on what the current market average salaries are. You've got to try and fall in line with that if you can. So those are probably the three most that we're experiencing at the moment, I would say, Peter.
Actually, that's great.
Cheers. Anybody else with any questions? No, I think we're done then, Lucy. Is it over to you now?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Lee. So as Lee said, if you do have any questions, he's got his email address at the bottom of the screen there. But thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at some next upcoming events. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.